mind of an insipid logic. It is to the cheap new peace architect and build the a few words about the author. Swatantra Veer Damodar Savarkar was one of the most daring revolutionaries in the Indian independence movement. His contributions to the movement are truly incalculable, and they can also be gauged by the fact that he was imprisoned in the cellular jail in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which is also known as Kalapani. This jail was one of the most gruesome jails in all of British colonial history, and he bore a lot of tortures there in order for this movement to succeed. In addition to this, he was also sort of a social reformer who advocated the removal of age-old practices like the caste system and said that all the Hindus should be united in order to form a united front against any other people who are who are hell bent on colonizing the country, and also the Hindutva theory, which is really controversial in today's times, but which simply means that anyone who lives in the Indian subcontinent, from the Hindu Kush to the Indian Ocean, is civilizationally a Hindu. It does not mean religiously a Hindu, but civilizational. The word civilizationally is really important. The underlying theme of the book is so that the book was written during the Indian independence movement, and in order to preserve their hold on India, the British had propounded some sort of lies that Indians were not capable of governing themselves and that Indians were ruled by foreigners during the entire part of their history. Sardar Savarkar saw through these lies, and he felt the need that Indians need to be educated, they need to be told, they need to be made aware of what their history really was, who were the kings and the leaders in the history who fought off the invaders and re-established native rule in the subcontinent. The book is comprised of 6 parts. It describes 6 main time frames of Indian history, and the basic structure of all the parts is some reasons, what were the circumstances of India at that time, how the invaders came in, how they waged wars, and how the local Indian rulers they formed a united front under some really illustrious figure and repelled the invaders and succeeded in establishing native rule. So, in the process of interpreting Indian history at various stages, the book provides an account of various great leaders and kings who lived in the Indian subcontinent at some point of time and how they resisted the foreign invasions in spite of overwhelming odds present before them. And in the process, the author also praises certain qualities that were present in them, such as the decisiveness, their proficiency in military and war strategy, the techniques which they used in order to re-establish their rule on the subcontinent. The purpose of this book was, of course, to dispel the notion that Indians were never able to govern themselves. And this book achieves the objective of making aware all of the readers that this is completely untrue and that we had several good native rulers in the past who have, in a way, metaphorically made us proud of our great history. Some really disclaimer sort of points of this book are it makes references to Hinduism or Hindu rule in the book, which might appear to give off sort of a communal vibe in today's context. So, in this context, it must be remembered that by Hindus, by his Hindutva theory, he means that everyone who is a part of the Indian subcontinent is civilizationally Hindu. So, by Hindus, it simply means the natives who were present from the start in the Indian subcontinent. In addition, he also advocates that some native rulers who were victorious on the foreigners, he says that they should have taken revenge of whatever atrocities that were committed on them and they should have plundered the religious sites of invaders such as the Muslims, which is really unacceptable in today's context. But it must also be remembered that the time which the author was writing out was not of the 21st century. It was of somewhere like before Christ, or even of the from the Christian era to the modern era. And in that time, the United Nations did not exist. The conventions such as the Geneva Convention or the Hague Convention on the preservation of cultural property that did not exist. So there was no sort of international pressure on them to not plunder the city or take away the loot as part of the war booty. So each time the rulers had to resort to some sort of aggressions in order to achieve their objectives, which was in a way justified. The overall structure of the book is as follows. I'll give a brief description of all the 6 epochs which are present in the book. So the first epoch is the invasion of the Greeks, the actual Greeks, under Alexander the Great, his defeat at the hands of the Indian kingdoms. He defeated Porus, but he understood that he could not go further because his army mutinied, and he got to know that the kingdom of Magadha was really powerful for him to invade. So he went back and he made a vow that he would return again, but unfortunately he died in Babylon after while returning to Macedonia. And it also the first book also documents the rise of Chandragupta Maurya, who defeated the then king of Magadha, Dhananand, or Dhananand. Dhananand was a corrupt king by all means, and he did not deserve to be a ruler. Magadha was considered to be one of the most powerful kingdoms of those times, and Chandragupta Maurya, with the help of Chanakya, helped defeat the kingdom of Magadha and re-establish native rule into the subcontinent. And he also achieved Chanakya's vision of Akhand Bharat, or unified India. The second epoch is the invasion of the Bactrian Greeks and the defeat by King Pushyamitra Shunga. So the Bactrian Greeks were the Greeks which were left over beyond the Hindu Kush mountains by the original Greeks. They were related to the Greeks in such a way that their ancestors were same, but beyond that there was no physical relation by them. They again invaded under Demetrius and under Menander. They were defeated by King Pushyamitra Shunga, who united the kingdoms which were again divided after the fall of the Mauryan Empire. The third epoch talks about the invasion of the Shakas and the Kushans. So the Shakas and the Kushans were certain tribes from Central Asia who had been attacked by the Huns. The Huns will be described later. Who were attacked by the Huns, and they, as a result, poured into the Indian subcontinent. These Shakas and the Huns managed to drive some really glaring raids into the subcontinent and the kingdoms which existed therein. Even at those times, India was not united because even the Shunga Empire, which established by King Pushyamitra Shunga, it had fallen. So, in this context, it gives the rise of the Gupta Empire and the exploits of King Chandragupta II. He is also known as Vikramaditya in repelling the Sakas and the Kushans from Central Asia. The fourth epoch reveals the arrival of the Huns, which the Sakas and Kushans had driven away from Central Asia through the Himalayas, and it also documents the fall of the Gupta Empire in fighting with the Huns and the rise of King Yashodharma, who was the chieftain of Malwa. He became the king later after defeating the Huns. It describes how he united all the existing rulers of the subcontinent at that time and repelled the Hunnish rule on the Indian subcontinent. The fifth epoch describes the prolonged struggle with the Muslim invaders, that is, the invasion of Muhammad bin Qasim, the invasion of Mahmud of Ghazni, the invasion of Muhammad Ghori, the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate, the Mughal Empire, and the people who resisted it at each point of time, and the final defeat at the hands of the Maratha Empire. The sixth epoch, this is the British domination of India. As we all know, the British dominated India for around 200 years, and the effective domination by the British throne was 90 years, from 1857 to 1947. So this describes the British domination of India and the events and the efforts taken by various revolutionaries in order to establish an independent India in 1947. In conclusion, so ending up the presentation, I would like to read some of my favorite pages from the book, which will highlight the glory of our rulers and what they achieved. So, in context, this page is after the Maratha defeat of the Mughal Empire and after they defeated Ahmad Shah Abdali. This might appear a bit controversial because it is known that Ahmad Shah Abdali defeated Marathas, but after that, the Marathas defeated Ahmad Shah Abdali and drove him out of what is known as modern day Pakistan. So I'll read it out for you. Soon arrived the news of the crowning glory of the Marathas. Raghunath Rao, the commander-in-chief of the Maratha forces, had posted some of the Maratha Sardars to punish severely all the Muslim emirs, umraos, gangsters, marauders, fakirs, and parasites of every sort who were creating anarchical conditions in the Punjab, and especially towards the Indus Valley, plundering the peaceful populace there and established the Maratha hold in that territory firmly, and to collect the revenue and the Chauth and the Sardeshmukhi taxes from the territory. Of those Sardars, Tukoji Holkar, Sabaji Sindhe, Gopal Rao Barve, along with their soldiers, attacked the fort of Attock, which was the pride of the Indus Valley, and snatched it away from the Muslim hands in the month of July 1758. The Muslim green flag was uprooted, and in its place was hoisted the tumultuous war cries of Har Har Mahadev of the Marathas and the saffron-colored Jari Patka of the Hindus on the fort of Attock. The Maratha and so the Hindu horse once again drank the holy waters of the Indus. On that glorious day, at last was the ban of 1,000 years enforced by the religious law of the Hindus themselves, broken down by Hindu arms. Why? The Maratha warriors pursued the Muslims even beyond Attock up to Kandahar. It is also explained in paragraphs 522 to 535 how this town was named Attock. So, in context, the town was named Attock because it was prohibited according to ancient Hindu religion, not ancient Hindu religions. In the medieval era, it was prohibited that Hindus should not crown, so the Hindus should not cross the town of Attock because beyond that lay the lands of the Muslim invaders, and it was forbidden. It was later lifted when the Marathas captured Attock. So continuing further, when the news arrived in Maharashtra of the conquest of Attock and the ousting by the Marathas of the Hindu Jaripatka on that fort, the universal joy felt they knew no bounds. The Marathas had taken revenge of the wrongs done to the Hindus over 1,000 years by routing and driving the Muslims right up to Kabul and Kandahar and wrenching the de facto sovereignty of the whole of India from the Muslim hand. In conclusion, I would just like to say that anyone who is fascinated by Indian history and who wants to know more about it should definitely read this book. Leaving aside all the extreme parts, it is really a good read and it will form a great part of your awareness and knowledge base for the foreseeable future. With that note, I'll sign off from this presentation and close it. And I'll just wish you have a really nice day. Thank you, everyone.